Normal. January, 1984. I call this place the Upshaw Building. I do so because Mr. Upshaw's Earth Science classroom is in it, and his is the only class that I in any way care for. It's sort of a tribute, I guess you could say. Mr. McLeod is our vice principal, and his office is located over there to the left as you go inside the hallway. Farther inside are classrooms belonging to the likes of Mrs. Watt, Mrs. Mebane, and Mrs. Doris. There's the front porch at the main entrance looking out onto Delarway Road. 2 brick planters filled with dirt stand chest high on either side of a pair of double doors. There are windows looking out from McLeod's office on the left and Mr. Upshaw's classroom on the right. There's a sidewalk running the length of the front of the building, and a couple of concrete steps join it to the porch. A long patch of grass stands between the sidewalk and the building. The frost and the ice storm have turned the grass an unpleasant shade of dead. A gnarled old oak tree sleeps leaf bare and lonely nearby. And that young grasshopper is how you can successfully describe a very boring building. Update your notes for future reference. I get off the bus in front of the Upshaw Building just as I do every morning, without any measure of pomp or fanfare. The outside air hits me cold and nasty. I'm officially back at school after a long and adventurous Christmas vacation. Getting back into routine is not exactly coming easy for me. Last night Terry and I joined my sister and my mom on a trip to Walmart. I took my Star Frontiers role-playing game with me, and I ended up spilling all the cardboard game counters into the back seat. Fortunately, we were parked in the back parking lot beneath a night light, so I was able to track down most of the elusive things. I must admit that there was a little spark of excitement for me at the prospect of finally seeing Karen again. I've had plenty of time to ponder our potential relationship, so I'm understandably curious what will happen during second period science class today. On the front porch is the collective display of insanity called Mark Hubbard and M. Tobias Crow, otherwise known as Toby. I promised that I would get around to telling you all about them someday, and I guess that day has finally arrived. Bear with me, for this shall be neither easy nor pleasant. First of all, let's just get one fact out of the way right at the start. Mark Hubbard is weird enough to make your hair fall out from its roots. There. It's as simple as that. Yeah, I admit that maybe the whole hair falling out thing doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But, then again, Mark doesn't make sense either. So it all pretty much evens things out in my eyes. I've known this outlandish coon since second grade, when I first saw him running around the playground like some joyfully retarded lunatic, pretending to be a killer shark and scaring the other kids as he giggled and snapped his hands at them. As I think about it today in clear-minded retrospect, I strongly suspect that many of those kids were probably more afraid of catching whatever diabolical brain disease Mark was harboring rather than the whole killer shark routine itself. It's safe to say that very little has changed in those 7 or so years. I introduced young Mark to the world of the Dungeons & Dragons role-playing game in early 1982, and since then he has developed quite an unhealthy obsession with it. I'll probably end up paying a heavy price for that particular error in judgment someday. He carries a very large vinyl book bag with the word Tupperware stitched across the side. Within the moldy confines of that book bag is a vast and jumbled pile of Dungeons and Dragons manuals, supplements, character sheets, maps, graph paper, and game modules. The whole thing weighs a good 25 pounds if it weighs anything at all, and I'm surprised that the flimsy carrying straps have remained intact for as long as they have. Within a small silk drawstring pouch inside his coat pocket is Mark's D&D dice. 4-sided dice. 6-sided dice. 8-sided dice. 10-sided dice. 12-sided dice. 20-sided dice. The dice are very special collector's edition specials. They are shiny, expensive, and altogether remarkable things. I have never asked exactly where he got them. Perhaps you shouldn't ask either. Alongside Mark is his moderately large and moderately round collaborator, Toby Crow. Last year, fresh from private school, Toby's hair was neatly greased, combed, and parted. As you can see, that is no longer the case. He is now adorned with a straight mop of reddish blonde hair that appears to be held in place by nothing more than simple gravity. Toby wears plastic frame glasses while a large, hair-sprouting mole rides comfortably on his reddened cheek. He's fond of loud, plaid lumberjack shirts, jeans, and brown hush puppies. I like to call his fashion preference lumberjack chic. He is Toby. He is Crow. He is Toby Crow. Every last bit of him. At the moment our young hero Toby is leaning lazily against the brick planter on the right side of the porch. Mark has some D&D manuals laid open along the ledge, and a spray of his fancy dice is strewn across a yellowed sheet of notebook paper. A cold north breeze keeps threatening to mercifully blow the paper away.